Hey mamas, welcome to the Mom on Point podcast. I'm Valen. I will be your host every Tuesday. This is a fun, safe space where we can discuss motherhood in all its complexity. This includes loss, friendship, mental health, wellness, parenting, marriage, and as a postpartum doula, the postpartum period, and also identities. Throughout our lives, and especially motherhood, we experience so many identity shifts and changes, and I think we need more conversations surrounding the hard stuff, the things that matter most. And some of those things are really uncomfortable and no one likes to talk about it, but I do. So download this episode, play it in the car while doing errands or just hanging out at home. And I hope you enjoy this episode. Let's dive in. Hey mamas, thanks for coming by and listening to the podcast. Today's episode is, I think it's just for everybody. We're going to talk about adult friendships as moms, all the expectations, and then changes and growth. I kind of debated on where to start on this, but recently I had a talk with one of my friends, and she's having trouble with some of her friends from high school, and she's become a mom, and they haven't, and they have some pretty high expectations that she should be fulfilling. And it's just not feasible. Okay. Like, do you remember in high school and we'd come back from the summer and somebody, oh my God, it had changed. And we'd be like, oh my God, you've changed. Like it was the absolute worst thing in the world. And if you hear that, that's my dog. You know, she likes to tear up paper. And I think for teenage girls, that's so hard because so then we stay the same the entirety of high school. Maybe growing and changing in little ways like our looks or maybe our friends circle or activities, things like that. But I just remember in high school, it was a terrible thing to change. Friends don't like when you change. They want you to stay where you are because that's their expectation of you. And that's not your problem though, right? But as a teenager, we want to be liked. We want to be loved by our friends. We don't ever want to lose our friends. And I remember even elementary school was brutal. One day somebody would say, I'm not your friend anymore. And then the next week they're your friend. The next week they tell you you're not their friend anymore. And then all the girls don't like you for a few weeks. Like friendships are super complex and complicated. And I just like to give more, I like talking about them. I know for me, after high school, I went to college and joined a sorority, and I was more focused on, my social skills and my social, just my social life rather than my education. And I was a drinker, stayed out partying all night, every night nearly. Back then, of course, it was fun. Like, that's what we want to be doing. But now looking back, like 10 years ago to the person that I was, if I was that person, I could not be the mom or the person that I am today. There is absolutely no way that I would have been a good mom. There is absolutely no way that I would be a better friend. There is no way that I could do anything that I'm doing now if I was drinking heavily and staying out all night, and having people watch my kids. And I'm not judging anybody. If you do that, that's awesome. But I kind of had an addictive personality. So for me, it's hard to do something sometimes. I'm more of an all or nothing person. So especially for drinking, and because I'm on Zoloft, I mean, it's not good to drink on medication, but I just stopped. Just like I stopped smoking, I was a smoker too. Like, I stopped smoking with during my first pregnancy. I had to do it all at once. Done. My point of telling you this is change is a part of life. We have to be able to change. We have to be able to be given the space to change. If you have friends that are just so inconvenienced by you deciding, like, I'm gonna stop eating this way. I wanna move my body more. I want to take up a hobby that's not out partying and dancing all night. I want to I want to become a writer. I want to start a podcast. Like, these are big moves and big steps, and people get really intimidated by that. And they think that because you're doing these things that you can't be their friend anymore. And that sounds so petty, but it's so true. Um Gosh, I've met so many women that expect you to never change. And that's not feasible. Um there's a quote, and I don't know who it's by. I can't remember. I'm going to have to find it, but it's like, if you're not growing, you're dead. What's the point of being stagnant in the same place, making the same decisions and the same choices and hanging out with the same people that are not the best for you? And with friendships, I think it's really hard to talk about expectations with each other, setting up boundaries. And although I feel if we did, it would be better. You know, I'm a mom now. So for me, when I hang out with my friend during the week, she has a baby too, a little younger than Emmett. And we both know as soon as one of them gets fussy, we're done. Like, nap time. We have routines. And it's important if you're a mom, which you probably are if you're listening to this, but you know that routines are life, especially with toddlers, babies, etc., kids in general. Um, and I'm not going to make her feel bad if she came over and like 20 minutes later, her baby's fussy and she has to go. Absolutely. You take him home, put him to nap, you know, do what you need to do. Hopefully you can get a nap too or something. But I also know how that feels. And I know how it feels when there's friends that get mad at you when you do that. And I choose, and I'm sure I was that way at one point when I didn't have kids and I had friends that had kids, like, "Ugh, really, you're going to go because your kid's crying?" Or, just, I'm sure I was a bitch at some point. I was a bitch sometimes. But, like, we have to allow people to change and grow. We have to. And if you have friends that make you feel bad constantly, and they have these expectations of you that you just can't meet because they are not conducive to the life that you're living now or the person that you are now. They don't take into consideration that you have a life outside of them. If they're constantly complaining about the same things over and over, if they, do you know what I'm saying? You don't have to continue to keep friends that treat you that way. And I know that's hard. Losing friends, ending friendships are, for me, one of the most hardest things that I've ever had to do in this life. Um, you also, there's also, there's seasons for friends. So a former military spouse, when you're at a new duty station, or if you're not a military spouse and you've moved, and you move for your husband's job or your job, and you're in a new place and you meet these new friends and people, and you know that it's only for a season and you'll always be friends, but they're there to help you through this point in time. I have so many friends like this, and I love them all dearly, dearly, and so much. But being together and seeing each other every day and then going to not seeing them for years, that changes things. And it's a two-way street. We both know it. And those friendships that turn into like best friendships, you'll travel to see each other, you'll make things work. But it is okay to have a friend for a season. Sometimes you're that for somebody else. I feel like sometimes I'm put into people's lives, even as a postpartum doula. Like some of the moms I serve, I think I'm there because they need the type of friend that I am for that period, that season that I help them. I believe that we all are. And just remembering that friendships are fluid, life is fluid, ever changing, ever growing. Oh my God, if you hear my son in the background, this boy was up at 6 a.m. and I put him down 40 minutes ago and he's just still being wild. But, anyways, you should always be changing and growing. Your identity, also, I always think this, it's always changing. And your identity is something that changes with seasons as well. If you have trauma, if you lose a baby, if you get a divorce, if you get married, if your parent dies, when big things like that happens, your identities change as well. But they can also change slower and more subtle in ways that you may not notice, but others may notice. And that's okay too. I like to check in with myself and be like, I don't identify with this anymore. I don't feel that way anymore. Because when you experience new places and people and information and you're learning and you're living life, it's really hard not to change and grow unless you're set in your ways. Like the last generation, 2 generations ago, they're taught something from childhood and that's it. As a millennial, I am constantly challenging every single thing that I was taught growing up because a lot of them are just not right. So always be questioning, always be looking and feeling into your relationships with your friends, and I'm not saying like cut everybody off, like make new friends, that type of thing. But I know for me, a lot of my friends are far away. And so one thing that I've been lacking is friendships here where I am now. And I've had 2 clients that have become really good friends. Um, my realtor, she was amazing. She's my friend. And then I have a few friends here now. And it actually took time for me to realize that. I was like pushing them away. I don't know if it's from the pandemic and just being isolated or from the loss of Evelyn, or I don't know what it is, but I wasn't recognizing them. Like, yeah, we talk here and there, but that's it. Like, and John's like, you have friends. I'm like, I feel like I don't, and sometimes we're in this state of mind where we're just victims and self-pitying, and um, I had to shake that off a bit. But just know, as an adult and as a mom, it's okay to live the life that you're living, and it's okay to tell your friends the truth. Like, sorry, I'm not coming. I'm not going to hang out. Like, it's during my baby's nap time. It's too much for me. Don't be afraid to do that, because if they're your friends, they will understand. And then just re-examine. Like, if there's somebody making you feel bad, you don't have to feel that way, for one. But for two, you also don't have to be friends with people who are constantly making you feel bad about choices that you make that are best for you and your family. It's a lot different than being a woman without children and not having other lives, to schedule around. So just know that. I hope you guys have a great week. I hope that this conversation sparked something in you, um, helped you realize that there's absolutely nothing wrong with you and changing and growing. Um, it's not your fault. If you have relationships that are hard, that aren't serving you anymore, um, it's just really time to re-examine those relationships, and you get to decide if they are lighting you up or tearing you down. And sometimes that realization sucks so much because we love with our whole heart, especially our friends. Friendship is one of those things that we have to have. So, again, have a good week. I'll see you guys next week. Bye, mamas. Thank you so much for joining me with the Mom on Point podcast. I hope you found some inspiration, some joy, maybe some new information that can help you heal, feel better, or just get through the day. If you've loved the podcast, please like and comment and let me know what you think. I read and respond to all comments personally, and it really helps others discover me who may need my message too. You can also find me on Instagram at valenweb. You can email me at info.valenweb@gmail.com. Again, that's info.valenwebb@gmail.com. Or you can check out my website where I have tons of free resources and freebies at valenweb.com. I look forward to hearing from you. I'll add all these things on the show notes. Feel free to check them out anytime. I hope you have a wonderful week, and I'll see you next Tuesday.